Town Council for August 2nd at 6:59 and 12 seconds. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? We have tonight, Autumn is going to come down here and lead us in the pledge. So whenever you're ready, we're ready.
Here?
Yes, ma'am, that's perfect. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Autumn. We appreciate that. All right. Next up on the agenda is an update from the Parker Chamber of Commerce. And I believe, Brian, you have somebody new to introduce to us.
Yeah.
Great.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thanks for having us. My name is Brian Taylor. I'm the chairman of the board of the Parker Chamber. And Kara wishes she could be here. She says hi tonight. She's actually with her son. It's his birthday, so she's taking him to dinner. So that's what she should be doing. But I have the privilege tonight of introducing you to our new president and CEO, TJ Sullivan. Today's his first day on the job, so be nice to him. He comes to us from the town of Superior. He was the executive director of the Superior Chamber of Commerce, and he's the 2020 winner of the Chamber Executive of the Year from the Colorado Chamber Association. And he just brings a wealth of experience. We're very thankful that we have him working in Parker now. He's going to do great things for our business community. We're really excited. Can't wait for each of you to meet him and get to know him and hear his ideas. He's got some great ideas. So I'm going to turn it over to TJ to give a couple remarks.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening. Hi. Thank you for having me here tonight. It is my first day, and I am pleased to report that I have found the restroom in the office. I got the computer hooked up to Wi-Fi, and I did not strike a single pedestrian on Main Street today, so I was feeling pretty good about that. Getting used to a new town and the roads and everything is always very interesting. So I'm going to call today a success. I was telling the mayor out in the hallway earlier that as much as this is my first day and it's exciting to start a new job whenever you do that, my mind has been in Missouri today because my youngest son reported for boot camp today in the U.S. Army. And so it's been a big day for both of us. Our family has always been very dedicated to serving the community. We believe in service, and I just think it's really cool that I'm beginning my service to Parker the same day he's beginning his service to the country. So my mind has been there, but I am looking forward to serving this community and helping to make the chamber strong and vital and exciting for everybody in the Parker area. So in the coming month, I hope to meet most or all of you at one point or another. So I will be reaching out and also to many of the staff, key staff members of the town, so we can start building those relationships that chamber success is founded on. So I look forward to partnering with you, and I look forward to being able to come to you at future meetings and actually have something of actual note to tell you. So thank you very much for having me here tonight.
Excellent. Thanks, TJ, and welcome. Council, hey, before you Council, any questions for the new director? It's a little game we like to play, Stump the New President and CEO of the Chamber.
I've been working 12 hours today, so we'll see how I do.
Any questions?
No, I just want to say welcome and let us know when you get that house bought in Parker.
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, welcome, and I would like to know, what are your major goals?
My major goals? Well, I think the chamber is still trying to rebuild in a few areas. I think there's some real opportunities in terms of figuring out the Parker Days situation, obviously, is a huge priority, and I was told that when I interviewed. But mostly, I think in the first year, I really want to spend time figuring out how the members are served by the chamber, how they feel a return on their investment in the community through the chamber, and how we can be an organization that truly returns value on their investments. So those are probably my immediate priorities, because I still have so much to learn about what needs to be done. I was laughing with Brian that I figured out today where our bank accounts are. That's pretty exciting. So I have a lot of work to do. Yeah, so I have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Welcome to Parker.
Thank you so much.
Great. John?
Yeah, this is probably sort of a throwback,
Yeah.
but what are some of the things that you're most proud of in Superior that you accomplished in Superior? I'm looking for more of a
Sure.
coming soon type of thing?
Yeah, well, I don't know that everything translates. Obviously, Boulder County and Douglas County are two very different places. But I think the thing I'm most proud of was our immediate response to COVID. I think when COVID hit, most chambers in the state were reeling and pulling everything off the table and just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And we jumped really fast. We were the first chamber in the state to give grants from the town to we actually wrote checks to the brick and mortars in the town of Superior. Of course, there's a lot fewer than there would be in a town like this. But getting that money out in the first 30 days was really critical. And then we also were able to raise about $20,000 for first responders, meals for first responders in the first 30 days. And that was really exciting. And then a lot of chambers sort of took our lead and did the same thing. So I think COVID, it was a chance for us to rise to the occasion. And I'm very proud of that. So,
Great. Thank you.
Great. Ann?
We've been hearing lots of good things about you, so excited to see between you and Bo Martinez what you're going to do.
Yeah, all the northern imports. Yeah, so wonderful.
Welcome.
Go ahead, Ann.
Just welcome.
Thank you.
And just for councils to calm your nerves, I did have a meeting with the mayor of Superior, and he gave you a glowing review. So, but he did say there was a warranty period, so we could send you back if they'd take you in a heartbeat. So
The chamber saved the receipt, so we're okay. So.
Exactly.
Great.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you
TJ.
very much.
Appreciate
Have a
it.
good
Thanks,
evening.
Brian. All right. Next up, Downtown Business Alliance update. See Mr. Chanel in the audience. Are you going to have your entourage with you today, or?
Well,
Lone
I
Ranger?
do, actually. We have a couple members sitting right here, so.
Perfect.
Good evening. Thank you, town council members and town staff, for having us. Well, given that we were here in front of you just last week, we really don't have much of an update for tonight. But I will welcome TJ to Parker, and I want to congratulate him. I'm finally figuring out what the word superior means and moving to Parker. At least for work. So welcome, TJ, wherever you are there, yes. But I will entertain any questions that you may have based on our update from last week, since it had a week to set in.
Great. Council, any questions, Ann, John,
No questions. Thanks, Chris.
Todd?
How's your zombie crawl up planning going?
It is crawling along at a feverish pace, but we're very much looking forward to that, yeah.
Excellent. Cheryl, any questions?
No, I
And
think I'm
Josh,
good.
any
Thank you.
questions?
No questions. Thanks, Chris, for being here.
Thanks, sir.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, item number 4, public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for the town residents and other interested individuals to speak about items not on the agenda. This comment period is limited to 30 minutes total, with each individual allowed 3 minutes to speak, and you must sign up ahead of time in order to comment. And that sign up begins 30 minutes before the start of the meeting. So there are 3 ways you can make public comment in the room here. We'll have Zoom open for public comments, and then you can also email the town clerk's office up to 5 o'clock on the day of the meeting. We have received 2 items on public comment, and I believe both of those are dealing with the traffic down on Motzenbacher with the new developments. So with that, and those will be entered into the minutes from August 2nd for tonight's meeting. So I'm going to go through the public comment sign-up sheet real fast. If you didn't sign up by chance, there'll still be an opportunity for you. We'll have you come down here, state your name and address for the record, and then we'll start your 3-minute timer. And again, we will have the question on the our public hearing on Anthology North will be in just a couple minutes. So if that's what your topic is about, please reserve it to there. We'll have a time for public comments during that time, but I don't want to detract anyone from coming down. So first one is Alan Meshberg from Indian Brook Circle.
Has to deal with Anthology North.
Okay, we'll save you for there. Okay, let me make a note of that. David Arndt. It's for Anthology. Okay. Tahendran Dakal.
That's for Anthology North.
Did I get it close? Not even close. All right. And then Andrew Coleman? Yeah. Anthology? Okay, so we'll call you guys down for that. Any other public comment in the room who didn't sign up? All right. Do we have anybody online wishing to make public comment?
For those of you on Zoom, please raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment. No comments.
Okay, perfect. Then we'll go ahead and move on in our agenda to item number 5, reports, items, and comments from mayor and council. I think I'm going to start over to my left tonight, and Councilmember Dyak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had, I had a Dr. Cog meeting. We talked about State Rule 22, the Employee Traffic Reduction Program. This was a rule that was mandating employers to make significant modifications to their employee workforce. It has been downgraded to optional, so we got some additional feedback from that. We had a couple of transportation improvement projects, otherwise known as TIP projects, having delays as a result of COVID. That was in Westminster and Sheridan. We approved those. We also had a dual model overview. What that is Dr. Cog gets a carve out of federal gas tax money every 3 years or so. And we went to a different model or different way of distributing those funds, what we call a dual model. It was something new, at least to this region, something a little bit innovative. It seemed to work out tremendously well for everybody with some hesitation. So we talked about that. I also had an E470 Finance Committee meeting. We had an investment review. We do an annual investment review of the excess or restricted funds that we have invested, if you will, based on a very, very low risk tolerance, so we can access those. We had an internal audit briefing. What the E470 does, it selects a couple of contracts in different departments and goes through them and reports back to the Finance Committee. We also had the council retreat on the 23rd. All of us were in attendance, including Councilmember Hefta, who is not here today. And on the 24th, a few of us, and I'll let the mayor handle that, we were at the East-West Trail completion celebration. Thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Barrington.
So since our last meeting, Councilmember Rivero and I had our final orientation with the Parker Police Department, and that was really fascinating to get to see some of the behind-the-scenes goings-on there. I mean, not goings-on. It's a very amazing department. We had some fun training exercises, and then at our council retreat, I feel like we came together and got a lot accomplished. And I look forward to my new committees that I will be working on, the Douglas County Partnership and the Greater Parker Foundation.
Excellent. Councilmember Hendricks.
Thank you, Mayor. As Councilman Dyak alluded to, we several of us were at the dedication of the East-West Regional Trail. Always good to see recreational opportunities expand in Parker. Also, several of us attended the Let's Talk Parker booth at the farmers market. Got the chance to interact with the citizens. And then also we had our retreat. I also felt it was a good meeting, talking about various topics. Thank you.
Councilmember Pogue.
Yeah, a couple things. We had the month, I'm on.
You're on.
So we had the July meeting for the Douglas County Housing Partnership. Diane Leavesley, who's been there for quite a while and very effective, has announced her retirement. Wow. So we'll be looking for a new person to assume that role. And at the same time, that entity receives, these private equity, or what is it called again? I keep forgetting. Private, huh? Grants. No, they're not grants. It's government funds, but it's private funds that come in from the government to use for public housing, generally low income or elderly or whatever. They are looking at purchasing a $3 million project in Castle Rock, 15 units. No decision has been made yet because we don't have a good evaluation of the condition of the property, but they are looking at it because it's close to another property that this partnership has, and it's close to housing. So the other thing, a private equity bond. But the other thing I wanted to bring up is at the board retreat, council decided to remove items from the general agenda that were items over $100,000 and other things. And I am going to be requesting frequently to put those things back on the regular agenda.
Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yesterday, I had the honor of meeting SICK, or as mispronounced often, Seek, Captain America. He was at the Parker Library and had a great message to kids about anybody could be a superhero. Just a fabulous, fabulous event. That actually came to fruition through the Let's Talk Parker booth. I met a young lady, a student at Ponderosa, and we chatted about Parker and everything, and handed her my card, and she decided to give me a call on a whim on the Friday before and said, would you like to come meet my community? And I said, yes, I'd be honored. And I went and created new friendships and learned a lot about the Sikh community in Parker, and I look forward to establishing those lines of contact, and very, very just a great way to spend a Sunday afternoon. Speaking of Sunday afternoon, down at the Farmers Market, we also had the Honey Festival. I made a little stop over there. Just a well-attended event, and I think anybody who was down there will know how well-attended it was by the traffic. We had a lot of pedestrians, and we are looking to fix that in the future, but I appreciate PD coming down and getting the cars moving through and slowing the pedestrians down. It's always interesting when pedestrians can hinder cars travel, but very appreciated to PD for knocking that out. And then last week I had Douglas County Youth Initiatives. We have a connections meeting that we've been doing recently, mental health discussions with teenagers. I will give credit where credit's due. This is something that Commissioner Abe Layden talked about. He sits on the board, and he said, let's get in small groups and talk. We've always had in the past the Youth Congress and had students in, 130 students, to tell us, what's going on in their minds and what are they looking at and what do they need. And we are very good at adults at telling kids what we think they need, but, more often than not, we need to listen to what they want and what they need, to be honest. So we had 7 students join us. All of the communities were represented except for Larkspur. The commissioner was there, the school district was there, school board members, the library trustees were there, library director was there, but more importantly, the mental health director for Douglas County Schools was there. So we had 7 students that were able to speak directly to their elected officials and directly to the school district. Outstanding. We heard everything from how COVID affected them in the last year, to mental health issues, to SROs, to counselors, to should we start high school at a later time? We talked about that as a district prior. This is something that's still on their minds. They still want to talk about that. It kind of just got written off. Just a great meeting, and I'm very proud of the kids that showed up. Specifically, one young man and just having a really hard time getting back into the system. I know that from that meeting and from what he shared with us, we had staff reach out to him, and they're going to help him get over those fears of going into high school, because he was a freshman through COVID, and now he's really quite nervous about going back to school. So it was a great day. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the time.
Excellent. Thank you. And just for me, I just want to note that I think 4 of us attended the East-West Trail opening, but just want to give a shout out to the Greater Outdoors of Colorado, who provided Parker with the $2 million plus grant to help us finish the trail. It was a long time in coming. I think most of us got the chance to meet the original founders, the folks that 35 years ago had this vision for a trail that would go from Parker all the way to Chatfield, and they were out there for the event to see the last part of it being completed. So we still got a couple of things. If you've been out on Jordan Road, and we're tearing that up, we're putting an undercrossing in, but that connects out to that trail as well, so you'll be safe. You don't have to play Frogger. None of you young people know what Frogger is, but play Frogger out there. Chris Elliott knows what Frogger is. But also, just want to also commend the police department on a successful teen police academy this past week. My daughter had a chance to attend, and I got all the great stories. I was enthralled to learn some of the things from her perspective. But guys, thank you. I think 40 teens went through that, maybe upwards, and it was a 5-day stretch. And of course, they love Bree Rock more than anybody. Chris Peters was there, but he doesn't hold a candle to Bree Rock. And then Wednesday, we have 2 new officers being sworn in. AJ Nero and Peyton Martin are being sworn in at the police station. So very much looking forward to that. All right, let's see where we're at on the agenda, reports items. The next item up is the consent calendar. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion for consent agenda items unless council votes to remove an item for individual discussion. So council, you have 2 items on the consent agenda, approval of minutes and a final design for the North Parker Road.
So I'm going to request that item B be placed on the regular agenda. In the interest of transparency, this is a significant amount of money, and there's been no public discussion of it.
Okay. Cheryl, are you making that motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Then that motion dies for lack of a second, and I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 6A and 6B, please.
I second.
Motion was made by Councilmember Rivera, seconded by Councilmember Hendricks. Please vote when prompted. Did everybody get their vote in?
Me? We all voted.
Yeah.
I voted.
Okay.
Voice.
All right, council, we'll just do a voice vote. Councilmember Rivera,
I vote aye.
Councilmember Pogue,
No.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Yes.
Councilmember Dyak.
Yes.
Councilmember Barrington.
Yes.
The consent calendar passes on a motion or vote of 4-1, with Councilmember Pogue voting no. Oh, and there we go.
There it is.
All right, next item on the agenda are contracts over $100,000 for Axon Professional Services. Deputy Chief.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for your time tonight. It's much appreciated. So we're here to discuss a contract over $100,000 with Axon Enterprises. So how we're going to kind of do this tonight, I'm going to talk about the nuts and bolts of the contract itself, but I also brought along Commander Chris Peters to talk about some of the finer points of this program, some of our policies, and some of the benefits that we've realized from this equipment and this agreement. I have to say, Chris was really the guy who spearheaded this whole program and did the research to get all the policies put together, obtain equipment, and put this whole thing together. So we'll split that up a little bit tonight. So I'll jump into the contract here. Again, this is with Axon Enterprises. The amount's for $185,136. This is the 3rd year of a 5-year agreement that was approved by council in 2019. This contract includes equipment for 11 interview rooms, 79 body cameras, and 40 in-car units. It includes all of the cloud storage, unlimited cloud storage for all of this equipment. And as you can imagine, that's a lot of video, so it takes care of all the storage for that. Gives us unlimited access. It gives the DA's office access for prosecutions. And basically, it's a it's a whole system put together that it takes care of all of our needs. The terms and the price of this contract were negotiated through a cooperative agreement, so these are all bid prices. Also, I think several weeks ago, council received a presentation from the chief of police and also our legal staff outlining the requirements of new legislation that bumps up the need to have all officers equipped with body cameras by April 2022. This agreement meets all of those requirements, and in fact, as said earlier, we've been under this agreement for 3 years, and then we were utilizing this equipment several years prior to that, which really put us ahead of the game in meeting these new requirements. So really, that's the nuts and bolts of the contract, and we're in receipt of the invoice for this year 3 of this agreement. So if council or the mayor has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to hand it over to Chris so he can explain the details and finer points of the program.
Great. Any questions for the Deputy Chief? Cheryl?
Yes. When did you start wearing body cameras?
There you go. See, that's why I brought Chris.
Okay.
2015. Yeah. So, 6 years well into it. And I'll tell you, these things they've been great. Our officers love them. They've been a huge help and a tool for us. So.
Awesome. John or Ann, any questions? Right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to turn it over to the expert. So, Chris, come on up.
Thank you, Deputy Chief, Mayor, Council. Thank you very much for your time tonight. So we've been at the forefront of this technology for quite a while. 2 years after I was hired, so in 2001, I was asked to get trained on and become our agency's instructor on in-car videos back when they were VHS cassettes. So that's how long ago the Parker Police Department got into recording incidents. And then you jump forward to 2015, when we went into the body-worn camera realm. In 2014, we had a lot of questions internally about policy, and we had a lot of really intelligent questions from our patrol staff and our patrol sergeants about, it wasn't about the, it's Big Brother, we're going to be, questioned everything we do. It was actually, the questions they had were very intelligent and high level. Their questions were, okay, we are the local government, and we're going to start going into people's houses, recording when we're in there. What rights do people have in their homes when the government comes in recording? So these kind of questions, very high level, and we did not have the experts in our agency to answer those questions. So we were looking for a lot of trainings, conferences, finally found a conference out of state where the ACLU was speaking, and they had a specific body-worn camera presentation about privacy rights and body-worn cameras. So attended that. I met with the presenter, who was the counsel for ACLU New York, and I worked with him for the better part of a year, and we together learned a lot. I learned from him. He learned from us. They originally had a whole criteria of their standard body-worn camera policy that they wanted law enforcement in America to use. But based on conversations that I had with him, they changed some of what their guidance was to law enforcement. And I actually learned a lot from him because he's, representing the experts in civil liberties. So when it's all said and done, we ended up crafting a policy that ACLU in New York ended up putting a press release out stating that it was the best body-worn camera policy in America. So after that, the phone calls started coming in about other agencies wanting to know how to do this. Rather than reinvent the wheel, just come to us. So East Coast, West Coast, North, South, Texas, Oregon, New York, even got a phone call from a newspaper in London about it. So made a lot of great strides. ACLU in Colorado did a lot of news stories about it, and just said that this is the way to do it, and a lot of agencies should follow the roadmap that we had developed. So it was a really great policy. So that really set us up well when last year Senate Bill 217 was drafted and enacted. We didn't have to make a whole lot of changes. Actually, we had to back off on some of the rights that victims of crimes had, but we didn't have to make a wholesale change to our policy because our policy is really spectacular in that regard. And then the clarification bill, House Bill 1250, that was enacted this year. It didn't address a whole lot more with body-worn cameras other than moving up the requirements to 1 year earlier rather than 2023, 2022. But we're all set. We have been for a long time with these video systems, and they help out tremendously with, they don't reduce complaints, but it reduces the question when a complaint comes in. They're handy for training, very useful for training, and very useful for transparency. If there's ever a question of what we did, we have had no issue, and history will show that we have released those videos, and it's been very good for transparency, for training, for helping out, figuring out, ciphering out complaints, and auditing how we're doing our job out there. So all in all, fantastic program, and I don't think any of our officers would be okay with not having a camera on them anymore.
Excellent. Questions? Start, Councilmember Rivera, any questions?
No questions. I appreciate the presentation, Commander Peters. Obviously, it's been going for a long time. Very, very proud of Parker PD and what they've done, and it means the world that we can work together and get a policy that is accepted by the ACLU. I see, obviously the State House didn't look to that leadership and decided to legislate themselves, and thus 217. I am proud to say that Parker is ahead of 217 and 1250, and very, very proud to have such a great department that looks out for the individual rights of our citizens and takes that to heart. So well done to you, command staff, and the chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Pogue.
Yeah, congratulations, because I think this is something everybody needed to know about. However, my question is, you have an annual amount due on this long-term contract, right? Is it been the same in the past, or does that cost go up and down with the amount of equipment or replacement or?
Well, so the cost is locked in for the 5-year period. So there's a schedule inside the contract that outlines the payment for each year. Now, when that contract comes up for renegotiation, of course, there's inflation and things like that. So there could be a cost increase. We haven't started that process yet because we've still got 2 additional years at the same price. But, you know, we'll certainly be at the table with Axon again, just purely because of the success of this program. But those contracts would be renegotiated at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, again, I think it's you know, from a contract standpoint, it's what we were read into last week at the study session, and Commander, the programs and initiative background that you provided, again, just love and appreciate listening to that. But we get that on a pretty reoccurring basis when the police department comes and briefs council. So for all those who want this information and a whole lot more, look at our study session agenda so you can take a look and hear all of this stuff in greater detail and more expansive detail. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
I just am so happy to see that you guys have been really trailblazers and have led the way for other departments and agencies and just are staying ahead of the game. And I got to see last week firsthand some pretty amazing things that you guys are doing. But I think that just staying up with this latest technology is just, it's a non-negotiable now, and I definitely support it. Great job.
Excellent. With that, I'll entertain a motion on this contract.
I move to approve the $185,000, $136, that is, for year 3. That is part of this agreement.
I second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Pogue, seconded by Councilmember Hendricks. Please vote when prompted to do so. And that motion passes unanimously. Item number 8, public hearings on Anthology North Sketch Plan Segment 1 and Preliminary Plan Segment 1A, so commonly known as Chambers and Hess Anthology North area. So just for everyone's edification and just for clarity, this is how tonight's going to go. So I'm going to open up the public hearing, and then our staff member, Brianna Simon, is going to introduce this. We're going to take questions from the council. We're going to give the applicant a chance to do your presentation and address questions from the council. Then we'll allow the public to come up, and we'll take as much time as you need. We'll allow the public to come up and do public testimony. You'll get 3 minutes each. We'll close that all off. We'll bring it back to the council for debate, and then we'll move forward on that. So any questions about what we're doing? All right. Did I get that right? All right. Perfect script. All right. So we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing on Anthology North at 7:33 p.m. Brianna, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. This is a proposal for a sketch and preliminary plan for Anthology North. Staff has heard from town residents concerning the fire station location found in Segment 3. The applicant has submitted a rezoning application to move the fire station location to Segment 2 away from the current residence. The application, staff, and South Metro Fire District have worked closely on the relocation and have received support from all agencies for the new location. This application will be brought forward for a public hearing on August 16th for Planning Commission and September 7th for Town Council. Please note the fire station location and rezoning is not tied to Segment 1 and is not part of the application being heard tonight. For the application tonight, the subject property is located on the south side of Hess Road between Chambers Road and Motzenbacher Road. The applicant PCS Group is requesting the approval of a sketch plan for Segment 1A, 1B, and 1C, and a preliminary plan for Segment 1A of the Anthology North development. The sketch plan application for all of Segment 1 is for 1,532 residential lots, 109.33 acres of open space, and 44.19 acres of park space. The preliminary plan for Segment 1A is located in blue on the map. This includes 441 single-family residential lots, 53 townhome residential lots, 47.92 acres of open space, and 37.19 acres of park space. Future preliminary plans for Segment 1B and 1C will accommodate the remaining units and acreage outlined in the sketch plan. The proposed preliminary plan identifies the layout of the subdivision to meet the standards outlined within the Land Development Ordinance, the Anthology North Plan Development, and the related roadway and stormwater design criteria manuals. The annexation agreement for the Anthology North development also outlines the amount of parks, open space, trails, and school land dedication required. For the Segment 1A preliminary plan, the applicant is proposing a total of 37.19 acres of park space, which exceeds the minimum amount of park space required. This includes a 31.36 acre community park shown in the bright green, the lightest green up on the map. This will be dedicated to the town. The applicant is proposing 47.92 acres of open space, which satisfies the minimum requirements of the open space. Trail systems are proposed to provide connectivity throughout the development. The proposed trails will link to the sidewalks and trails constructed within the neighboring subdivisions and will provide a connection to the Cherry Creek Trail. The proposed preliminary plan for Segment 1A meets the obligations outlined in the approved Parks, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan. As outlined in the annexation agreement, the developer will be required to provide one school site in Segment 1. This will be preliminary planned with Segment 1B at a future date. Segment 1A of the Anthology North development will be served by Stroh Road and Chambers Road extension shown in red. These extensions provide connections to the existing infrastructure and road network as outlined in the town's transportation master plan. A series of new collector roads and extensions of the existing collector roads will be constructed to support connections through the community and between arterial roads, which are shown in blue. Staff has reviewed the proposal and, as outlined in the staff report, has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan. The project meets the minimum requirements of the Land Development Ordinance and the Anthology North Plan Development. This provides adequate access, infrastructure, drainage facilities, and design considerations. Utility providers have confirmed capacity and availability. All referral agency comments have been addressed, and the public notice requirements have been met. Planning Commission heard this item on July 8th and recommended approval. Therefore, staff and Planning Commission recommend that Town Council approve the Anthology North Segment 1A, 1B, and 1C, and the preliminary plan for 1A subject to the condition listed in staff report. Staff is available for any questions, and the applicant is also present and would like to provide a presentation as well.
Great, thank you, Brianna. So we're going to take back any staff questions first. So Councilmember Hendricks, question? Councilmember Pogue?
Yes. What is your overall density for the residential structures?
So each planning area has its own density requirements as provided in the plan development. Those are specific to each area. I don't have the overall for this segment off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't even see a density discussed. I see the number of units, but that doesn't cover the density of those units per acre in that area.
So the units were outlined in each planning area, so in the plan development. So through our review process, we made sure that each planning area did not exceed those density calcs.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just saying that the density in those areas is not provided. You got the numbers, but not the units per acre.
Okay. Councilmember, any other questions, Cheryl?
No.
Councilmember Rivera?
No, I'll wait for.
Okay. Councilmember Dyak?
My only question, and I think this might be a developer question, but with us not addressing the fire station, it's in a different segment, different plan. When would that sort of come in the future? When would these people need to come back if the fire station is of interest to them?
So we're setting the foundation with the rezoning process. So once it is rezoned, we will be able, that's then an allowed use in that area.
Okay.
So that way we can move forward with any plating that comes next as we develop in the future and the fire station sees fit.
Okay. So again, I'm just looking for a time frame because, again, I think maybe some people take a look and see this anthology come up and they come. I don't want to waste their time, but I want to be purposeful with their time. I just want to give them sort of a ballpark as to when that's going to potentially be addressed. And you probably don't have that, so I can probably ask that question to the developer.
So we do have a representative from South Metro who can give that specific answer.
Okay.
In conversations, I believe it's 5 to 10 years out, but they can give more detail on that.
Okay.
Do you want to ask your question again?
Yeah. No. I think it's more from a land use standpoint.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
So for Planning Commission, the rezoning will be held on August 16th.
Okay.
And then the Town Council will hear this on September 7th.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Councilmember Barrington?
No questions.
Great. Thank you. And so the applicant is here tonight. If you all want to come forward and introduce yourselves, state your name and address for the record. And Danette, are you running the presentation for them? Okay, perfect.
All right. Good evening. John Prestwich with PCS Group, 200 Calumet Street, Denver, Colorado, 80223. First off, a big thank you always to Brianna and again all of town staff for helping us get here this evening. One thing I wanted to point out, you see kind of on the slide there, is that while the project is currently known as Anthology, we're currently renaming the community Tantera. We felt like that name really fits nicely with the way the design has evolved with preserving the drainage corridors and natural vegetation in those corridors. Perfect. So we're big believers in collaboration. We really recognize that it takes a full team effort to put together an application like this. I always want to acknowledge that effort, and that's really what this slide is about. Highlighting many of the team members that have helped us get here. And again, I always want to recognize the input that town staff has had working throughout this entire process. Okay, so this evening, again, we're here to present the sketch plan. A sketch plan depicts the general development patterns for the full Segment 1 area, and then a preliminary plan for Segment 1A. A few items I wanted to highlight. One is that we did process a PD amendment, basically the zoning for the property, later last year to incorporate the dendritic planning principles, and both the sketch plan and preliminary plan are consistent with those principles. Dendritic planning essentially evaluates the natural drainage corridors on the property and then works the plan around those natural drainage areas. So in general, this style of planning relies less on engineered solutions and more utilizes the natural terrain to manage drainage. Overall, Segment 1 is providing about 14 acres more park and open space than was anticipated in the PD zoning. And finally, no additional units or increase in number of units is being proposed with either the sketch plan or the preliminary plan. Okay, bigger picture. I think most people know where the property is, but just again for reference, Tantera is located to the west of Motzenbacher Road and the current Anthology neighborhood, south of Hess Road, north of the extension of Stroh Road, and east of the Rutterhess Reservoir. Again, you've seen this slide, but just shows the various segments throughout the Tantera community. Again, tonight, the more detailed area for the sketch plan is Segment 1, and then the preliminary plan is Segment 1A, that sort of light blue color. So this image is primarily for reference. It is the currently approved PD, and then over top, that red dashed outline shows the approximate boundary of Segment 1. As has been mentioned, one of the things that's come out of our previous hearings is that some of the neighbors in the Horse Creek neighborhood would like us to work with South Metro to see if we can relocate the fire station that's currently approved in the PD. And I wanted to report that obviously we have submitted that. We have hearings in place to move that forward, and Brianna's, I think, giving you the dates for that. This exhibit shows the overall sketch plan. In addition to the preservation of the primary drainages, the real heart of this segment is that community park, and I'll be showing you that in a little bit more detail. Again, this sketch plan proposes an additional 14 acres of park and open space areas as compared to the currently approved PD with no increase in the number of homes. This slide shows the proposed sketch plan on the top with the approved PD directly below it. So I think hopefully you can see that the proposed sketch plan really follows and is consistent with the currently approved PD zoning for the property. Okay, so park and open space, in working with staff through the sketch plan process, we had to put together basically a tracking exhibit that tracks all of the park and open space areas, again, depicting that we now have a little over 14 additional acres in this area, an increase of about 10% from the approved PD. Again, just a reminder, Segment 1A, just for reference, is the blue area. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the preliminary plan. This slide is an illustrative version of the plan for Segment 1A, again depicting the 411 single-family homes and 53 townhomes. Again, the site design has been planned around the natural drainage corridors, integrating trail connections and parks, also taking advantage of those natural areas. And in general, the grading for the lots ends at the rear of the homes to help protect the drainage and natural vegetation. Brianna showed this a little bit. This slide shows the 3 parks that are in Segment 1A from the Parks Master Plan for the community. One of the exciting things that we think about is that it includes this community park. It's over 30 acres in size, and we really think of it as 32 acres of fun in the heart of Anthology or Tantera. The park is connected to many acres of trails and open space. It includes a pool clubhouse, off-street parking, series of terraced iconic themed playgrounds, a trike track, bike trails, overlooks, shade shelters, outdoor event areas, and a large multi-purpose turf area. We're super excited with the collaboration we've already had with the town staff in developing these park concepts, and we'll continue with that collaboration as we get into the more detailed design. And then on the bottom of this slide are the 2 additional park areas that include play areas, again, those iconic shelters that were on that initial slide, trails, turf play areas, benches, tables, things of that nature. So as part of our design process, we build sort of a detailed computer model to analyze the design, see what it looks like, et cetera, et cetera. We actually created a short movie, but we can't show it with the zoom and all of that. So these are screenshots from this movie. We start with the concept for the primary entry monument at Stroh Road and Chambers intersection, and this sculptural element is essentially the community logo, just in an artful 3-dimensional interpretation. The next image starts to show you the new Chambers Road Bridge that will cross Oak Gulch. Oak Gulch will have a grade-separated regional trail. We're proposing some stone monoliths kind of adjacent to the bridge just to provide a little bit more character for the community. The bridge itself has been designed to be consistent with the town standard. You can start to maybe see some of the homes in segment 1A in the background. So now we're moving forward into the community. We're focusing on one of the parks that's integrated into the natural drainage areas. You start to see some of the homes fronting the majority of the park, providing visibility to that park. Again, this park provides play areas, loop trails, one of the iconic shade shelters, and all of that integrated into the natural terrain. Another image of the same park, just looking in the opposite direction, again blending the park design with the natural terrain. A little further down the drainage of the same park, you can kind of see some of these cool sort of concepts for crossing some of the drainage areas. And then here's a secondary entry concept at the Bramwell Road and Chambers Road, again highlighting a natural landscape feel, ornamental grass plantings, evergreens, kind of as a backdrop. And then backing up from that a little bit, it's the same area, just pulled back a little to give everyone a sense of the setting and starting to see some of the homes in the background buffered by those evergreen plantings. Okay, so the balance of the images are going to focus on the community park. This image is looking over the pool area. We understand that that will be a separate site plan process, but just wanted to show how it's integrated into the overall. The community park will include pickleball, bocce courts, off-street parking, again, trails throughout the park that connect to the community trails throughout the community. There's this large iconic playground area that includes a custom play equipment as well as, again, some of those iconic shade shelters. And the next image, this image depicts that custom play shelter we're working on. It's a large hawk. You kind of got, I think, the sense from the logo that that was a bird. This hawk includes a slide, multi-level play. You can see some of the embankment slides on the right portion of the image. And then beside and a little bit above, there's a lot of grade on this in this park. We actually are looking at proposing really a custom trike track. Basically, it's a fun little racetrack for kids on trikes. It'll be striped with signage. And then finally, looking back towards the playground area with the large multi-purpose turf area in the background. Again, just kind of over that iconic playground area. And hopefully that gives you a good sense of the thoughtful design for this preliminary plan area. And again, just to summarize, the proposal is for a sketch plan that really details all of segment 1, as well as the preliminary plan for segment 1A. Again, overall, the proposed sketch plan increases the amount of park and open space by over 14 acres in segment 1, a little more than a 10% increase. And also provides the guideline for the future design of segments B and C. The preliminary plan is consistent with the sketch plan and PD. And finally, staff and Planning Commission have recommended approval based on review of the approval criteria. Thank you for your time and happy to answer questions.
Great. Thank you, John. I do like that trike pathway because I think the sooner we can get people to learn how to use roundabouts, the better off we'll all be. I think it's a universal. Let's start to my left. Councilmember Barrington, any questions for the applicant?
No questions. It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Pogue?
Definitely.
Okay.
So I'm really interested in this density issue because I don't really see an easy way to pull this out of the information I have. So when you're looking at a single-family lot, what is the size of that lot?
So the sizes are all, it's kind of a multi-question because there are 50-foot wide lots, there are 45-foot wide lots, there are 30-foot duplex lots, and there are townhome lots. They're all described in the actual PD. So where we're at in the process in the sketch plan is making sure that we comply with the PD, which staff has ensured that we do. And so each one of those planning areas has a specific nomenclature like SFE, SFD, THE that have requirements for each one of them, and we've made sure that we meet all of those requirements. I wish we had the actual drawings because we could do calculations for you, but I can tell you we're complying with the zoning.
Well, zoning's one thing. I'm just interested in what you're really doing. So you may be complying with the zoning, but it's hard to figure that out because you've got so much multifamily in here and small lots. I was just wondering what the average single-family lot size was.
Most of the lots are 50 by 110 or 120, most of them. As we mentioned, we have 53 townhomes out of the 411 plus what's the overall number?
441?
441, there you go. So I wouldn't call that a significant amount of multifamily. But again, that has been ferreted out in the PD process, and we're making sure that we comply with that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate you being here today. Thank you for the presentation. I will, just because I have to, for old time's sake, appreciate the dendritic design. Always have appreciated the work there to let Mother Nature move water instead of installing yards and yards and yards of concrete that we have to maintain forever. So truly appreciate the work and the partnership that went in there. I want you to reiterate, if you could, we have a PD that existed in this area, and that PD established what this could become. And within that PD were the total number of lots and the total number of densities. And as staff said, and as you have said, if you would, just one more time, you have met that PD, but not only met, you have exceeded the needs of that PD, correct?
Correct. And in fact, as you get into more detailed design, that's how we've come up with 14 additional acres worth of parks and open space. The PD draws sort of large bubbles that say, hey, you're going to have houses in these areas, you're not going to have houses in these areas. But then when we get into the more detailed design, sometimes you don't need to extend your planning for the homes throughout the entire boundary that you thought. I mean, it's sort of an iterative process where you start with the bigger picture, you're starting to get down to a finer grain picture, and then when we get into the final details, you'll have even that finer grain of detail. But the preliminary plan gives you a certain level of detail for sure, and that complies with the zoning.
Thank you. And I think that segues beautifully into my next question. Today in front of us is a sketch plan for segments 1A, 1B, 1C.
Correct.
And then a preliminary plan for 1A. There's still more depth to get into, correct?
Correct, yes, absolutely. We will be back in front of you all for prelim plan for B and C, and we'll be working towards final plans, hopefully, for A, which again has another level of detail.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone else? Any questions? Thank you, sir, for that presentation. Next, we'll go to public testimony on it. So I have 4 folks signed up already for public testimony. I will call you up. And then if after those 4 go, anyone else in the room that would like to come forward, state your name and address for the record. You'll get your 3 minutes, and then we'll switch over to Zoom for anybody that wants to make public comment that way, and then we'll get through this. So, all right, first up is Alan Meshberg. And Alan, if you'll state your name and address for the record, then I'll start your 3 minutes.
Sure. Alan Meshberg, 15798 East Indian Brook Circle here in Parker, 80134.
Excellent. There you go, sir.
Okay. I realize we're not really talking about the fire department tonight, but I am going to talk about the fire department tonight, and I appreciate the council member saying we need to get some dates locked down when we're going to actually discuss it, when we're actually going to, I appreciate the slide that showed the relocation. I have a piece of paper here that came in the mail that said that the Planning Commission is going to discuss it on the 12th, but you mentioned the 16th. Which date is it?
It's Thursday, the 12th or 16th? 12th.
12th?
I apologize, I stayed
No
the wrong
problem.
date.
So are we talking about that on the 12th?
Yes.
Okay, and that's at the Planning Commission, and then it comes back here, I just want to make sure I have this right, on September 7th?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe it's September 6th is a Monday, unless that's a holiday.
It's a holiday,
Okay,
so
there
it's
you go.
Tuesday the
Okay.
7th.
So we have some dates, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Okay.
I am cautiously optimistic that we can get this thing moved from behind our houses, right behind my house. And I thank you for your time, and I give the rest of my time back.
Great. Thanks, sir. All right, next up is David Arndt.
My name is David Arndt. I live at 12875 Billingsley Trail. It's located in the Anthology development built by Century Community Homes.
Excellent.
So we're living directly behind, I think it's segment 1C. And to start off, I used to work for planning firms, land planning. I've also worked for forensic engineering firms. So I have a good idea of issues that we had saw and I'm experiencing right now in Anthology is water problems. Now I heard the discussion of the drainage and it's naturally flowing, but my house, when I bought it, everything was cool. But 1 week before closing, the floor had heaved 3/4 inch, the sump pit's going off 4 times a day, water's pooling in the yards, it's coming across the sidewalk, it ices up in the winter. It's going to affect the resale of my own house. So it brings me to this community is, I know we can say that we're following natural drainage and all that, but has there really been a study of what this is going to do to what is the here and now? What is going on with Anthology, the community we live in, that we're going to make sure that we're not flooded out by that community and making the water problem much worse than it already is. So, what my preference would be is actually not to do the community at all until that is addressed, because it just gets worse and worse, and nobody's doing anything in Anthology to actually fix the movement of water. Now, some of it's the builder's issue, but not all of it. We were told that the water table, or there's a perch water table in our community. I don't think based on the elevation of their houses, it's going to do much. But a lot of that water is going to go right into the water table, and we're going to be dealing with it, pumping it out. So that was why my preference is to put this thing on hold at a minimum and see what can be done about Anthology, or what it's going to do to the other communities around as it drains off.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to mess this up, but I know you'll correct me. Tahandra DeCall. If you come down and state your name correctly for the record.
My name is Tazandra DeCall. I live at 12723 Buffington Trail. Mr. Mayor, I have a petition from the town, so I would need a little more than 3 minutes. And if needed, some of the community members can yield me their time.
Okay, we have 3 minutes, but I'll let you know at the end of 3 minutes. Let me reset it for you. I'll let you know at the end of your 3 minutes, and we can continue for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, hang on.
So first,
just a second. Let me reset. But so I'm going to ask you to wrap it up at 3 minutes, and then if you want your other members to, continue for you, but you get 3 minutes.
I would just start talking as the mayor tries to understand technology, just for your sake, okay?
You had
No
your chance. There you go.
disrespect.
Good.
okay. So first concern I have is about the notice that was mailed to us. It does not have any information on the sketch plan or the sub numbers, so the public is not really informed about what exactly is being planned. So just based on that, the comments I am making today are not only related to the sketch plan 1A, it's to the entire project, sub 20-005 and sub 20-006. I have a petition from my community signed by 94 homeowner and residents, and for the record, I'm going to go ahead and read the petition. August 2nd, 2021, to the town of Parker. We, the undersigned, hereby petition the Parker Town Council to stop the development proposed by project number sub 20-005 and sub 20-006. We state or believe we are residents of the existing Anthology community bordering the proposed development. The proposed development does not leave enough open space around the existing Anthology community, and it will completely change the look and feel of the existing community. The proposed development will significantly reduce the value of our property. The proposed development violates our privacy by putting new homes and public paths in direct view of our homes that do not have a privacy fence. The noise and environmental pollution during the development in close proximity will directly impact the health and well-being of the residents. And the natural habitat of the wild animal and birds will be significantly reduced such that they are forced to come closer to our homes or just die away. I'm the petition organizer with my neighbor, Mukesh Shankla, and following that are 94 signature of homeowners in the area. So one of the other things that have been bugging me since I started looking into this is that our builders, Century Community, didn't tell us anything about what was being planned. And they have collected a lot of money on lot premiums just by showing us the open area behind us. And every time we asked, they either said they didn't know or it was not going to be for a long time. And that's obviously not true. So what I would like to know is whether there's any interest, financial or otherwise, between PCS Group and Century Communities. Because if there is such relationship or collaboration, we need to know, because that doesn't sound right to us. So the other thing is that I used to live in Parker a long time ago. I moved away about 17 years ago for college and work. I lived all across the state, even East Coast for a little bit, and I came back because Parker is my home. I bought a home here. I plan to raise my kids here. So one of the things I remember from before, and it's true for the most part today too, is that Parker had this small town feel because of communities that are close-knit, separated by a lot of open space. And this development changes that for our community. It's completely surrounding our community. And if you look at the details of the sketch plan, you can see that there are more open spaces within the Tantera compared to between Tantera and Anthology. So some of the homes that are being built will be, within hundreds of feet of our homes that already exist.
Great, sir. Thank you. Your 3 minutes is up. Thank
right.
you for your comments.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, next up is Andrew Coleman. Mr. Coleman, if you state your name and address for the record, I'll give you your 3 minutes.
Sure. My name's
Lift that up if it's...
Okay, yeah, it's a little low.
Feel bad for the next person after you, but...
There we go. Yeah, my name's Andrew Coleman. I live at 12677 Buffington Trail.
Great. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so just to further what he was saying, I live kind of on the west side of Anthology West, just east of where that 1A segment is planned. And again, I mean, the Century Communities actually indicated to us that it would be a development further away, which justified the lot premium that we paid. I realize that's, a civil matter, but the fact remains that a lot of us moved there expecting to have this nice open space, which we currently have. And I get it, there needs to be development and so forth, but I think that, looking at the plans, it comes right, right up to that drainage right behind our houses, and it just seems too close. It's going to disrupt the wildlife. And also, I mean, it just seems like a bad decision for the town because, it reduces the amount of open space. It's really too dense, I think. It's just not a good decision. So I would hope that it can be redesigned to be less dense or further away. But I just wanted to make that comment. So
Great.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. All right, anyone else in the room wishing to make public comments? Come on down. We'll get them, and then, sir, you can be next. Let me reset this. Great.
You're
State your
sorry
name
for
and address
me
for the record.
because he was very tall. Yes, so my name is Glenda Wilson. I live at 17726 Emilia Drive, Parker, Colorado, 80134.
Go ahead.
So I want to address the drainage issue. I did partake in the petition yesterday, and that was voiced over and over. I do realize that Mueller did this preliminary look at drainage corridors, the preservation of current drainage, but that's on the current property. So like already mentioned, once you dig these foundations or basements, that water has to go somewhere. And current homes along Amelia Drive are currently flooding when we get a lot of water. He said his sump pump runs 4 times a day. Mine runs continuously. We've already had neighbors who have had floods in their basement because the sump pumps cannot keep up. So I would propose that I get the property has been looked at, but have they gone door to door to ask current property member owners what is your current drainage? Because currently, the property that is going in, we've looked at it, we've deemed that it's good, but they're just looking at that property line. They're not looking at our homes that are adjacent to it. So I would just ask that they take that into consideration. And when they start the grading, I understand you do, they have to get a permit for grading. Once you start any grading, that is going to change the drainage. So we are very concerned, obviously, about the water drainage. Another thing that came up is just the increase in wildlife that is currently getting pushed closer to us with Looking Glass, and Tantera is going to be even closer. We understand you guys cannot relocate coyotes, rattlesnakes, and prairie dogs. Those were the three. But it is for our safety and the safety of our pets, because we are only allowed that 3-foot fence. We would just ask again for some consideration or help from the city when we are experiencing issues with wildlife, if they can be helpful. I do understand that we're looking at a preliminary sketch, but that's going to go on into those specific preliminary plans for B and C in the future. And so I'd like to make changes now before we zoom down, like John said, into that like really close view. If we don't talk about it now, when we get down there, you're almost stuck because you're like, oh, we've already approved these other ones. And that would be specifically for the trails. This big sketch view does not include all the specific trails that are going to be going behind our houses. I understand the park is 30 acres of fun. I'm just asking for a lot size of privacy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just for the record, I would relocate all the snakes in Parker to anywhere else. So, sir, come on down. State your name and address for the record.
My name is James Barstad. I live at 12845 Billingsley Trail in Anthology. Similar street and new addition to the first development of Century Homes Anthology plan. I would like to reiterate that the access map and the master plan documents and the maps are not easily available as they were at the original preliminary plan that I participated in. Objecting to this based on the water. The water is a big problem. This is nothing I've ever seen in my life. It's a structural nightmare. Here's the newest story. A week ago, 10 days ago, they're inspecting the manholes on my street. I go running out there because I'm a 4th and 5th grade and a K-5 STEM teacher. They're measuring the manholes, and what they found at the end of the camera on a 12-foot pole was high-pressure water infiltrating 6 manholes in a row. That infiltration is groundwater. There isn't surface water. The theory of dendritic planning is great. I love it. Looks great. Down under, they're not measuring the water depths. Now that they have plans, we have all the water and all the houses and all the landscaping and all the watering and so forth. All that infiltration, they were out here in 10 days. They are out there right now. They have dug up all 6 of those manholes, and they are pouring concrete in there to stop the infiltration. That's how bad the groundwater is. They don't measure the water. I call the engineering firm that comes out and does the dig holes and the samples. After the development's done, no measurement. So the dendritic idea, in theory, is wonderful. It'll look cool. But where the water is going in this soil, at this embankment that's like 50 feet above our houses, right behind it, where the trails are going to be, that water is all going down deep. If you could walk, you could just drive down that street, and you can see dead tree after dead tree in the front, in the back, and everywhere. These trees that are planted on the grade lines and the lots, they're all dead because they're full of water. It is ridiculous. It is nothing I've ever seen. In the last rain last week, my sump pump runs every 4 minutes. I've been sending videos to Century Homes for a year. They have finally agreed to a significant chase drain plan that has been interrupted by this huge manhole infiltration nightmare that the engineer said to me, I have never seen anything like this in 25 years. I'm on my 4th house. I have never seen anything like this. in 30 years. This is not okay. The water problem that is going on there is either some sort of aquifer or something else going on, or there is major groundwater infiltration on this over-excavated soil that nobody is testing and nobody is doing anything about until the Parker Town Water came and said, holy crap, pardon me, this is a big problem. And they were there in a week.
Great, so your 3 minutes is up. Thank you. To our town administrator's office, can we have somebody follow up on that concern about the water out there?
We can, and it sounds like it may have been Parker Water District as well.
If we can reach out.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, too. All right, anyone else for public comment? Ma'am, come on down. And if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Helen Park. I live at 12677 Buffington Trail. We recently moved here from Denver. I'll tell you why we chose this area. First of all, we love Parker. Everything we know about Parker, it's just wonderful. You all folks here listening to us and considering what's going on is great. I truly believe in this great town. It's like a dream come true for us. However, we moved to Parker because, and we were looking at Highlands Ranch, and we moved to Parker because it is different. It is different from Highlands Ranch. It is different from the rest of Douglas County, and it is sure different from Denver, and that's why we love it. But if you put this much housing around where we're currently living, it's going to look just like Highlands Ranch. No offense to anybody living in Highlands Ranch. Highlands Ranch is a great place too, but when we drove through it, it was like home after home after home after home after home. I mean, really quite depressing, really. But not only boring, but depressing. And what's Highlands Ranch known for? It's just a town just full of homes. And it's a great town and has a great schools and, everything that an Asian mom like me could hope for. But it lacked character. And I really feel like if you surround our current community with 10 more communities of homes, it's going to look like Highlands Ranch. I mean, first world problems, right? But I love living where I currently do. It's beautiful, and whenever I drive through the rest of Parker, I think this town is really beautiful. Wouldn't it be a shame if it was just covered with homes? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Sir, come on down. No, you're fine. You're fine. State your name and address for the record.
Gene Kozleski, 17710 East Amelia. I'm neighbors to the Wilsons here.
Great, go ahead.
Just to give you some background, we moved to Parker 6 years ago from Woodland Park, and I was on that side of the bench for 12 years. I served on the Parker City Council, so I know what you're going through there. My concern with this development is we have a hill behind our house on Amelia there that ever since we moved in, we've had drainage problems. I have put drainage mitigation on our east and west side, including French drains. I have done everything I can do, and yet we still have difficulties with this rain. I am the homeowner that had the flood in the basement that Ms. Wilson was talking about there. This is something that concerns me because of that hill in the back of the house. Something has to be done to ensure that we're not flooded out. At least we ask that of you to address this. This isn't just people complaining about a new development. This is a real concern that we have with the drainage situation there. So again, I thank you for your time. I love your council here. It was so much nicer than ours, but I admire your efforts. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the room wishing to make public? Come on down, sir.
Hi, my name's George Veraldis, 12705 Buffington Trail.
Great, go ahead, sir.
So I moved in about 4 months ago, not knowing at the time, but probably a month or two after we moved in, the 2 houses down the street flooded. Parker Water was out there doing that work. I don't know what was the result of that, but now that I'm hearing all these other stories of surrounding areas having water problems, clearly there was a water problem when your street floods, when it's not after a rain incident of huge proportion. So secondly, we also back to that open space. I can't tell until I saw some of those, and even not, how much of that open space they're taking away. Again, kind of the point of, we paid lot premiums to have open space of a certain amount at least. I don't know how far that's going to be encroached. And then just the last point is kind of I understand we have to develop. There's a lot of development going on all around us. And at some point, the musical chairs will stop and we'll have too much development, because it happens all the time. And then the people that are already there will all be the ones that suffer when there's too much development. I mean, there's so many developments going on around Crowfoot, Motzenbacher, the new Stroh developments, Looking Glass. This one would be adding, at some point, I don't know where all the people are going to come from that are going to move into all these developments in this short period. I don't know what the time period is for this one, because I haven't seen that in terms of, is that 3 years out? Is it 5 years out? Is it nearer term than that? Anyway, and that's it.
Great.
Thank you,
sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the room wishing to make public comment on this item? Okay. Danette, do we have folks on Zoom wishing to make public comments?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
The first is Mr. Elfner. I'm promoting you to a panelist.
All right. All right, Ian, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Ian Elfner, 15750 East Indian Brook Circle.
Great.
In Parker.
Go ahead.
Mayor, council, how are you? I'm sure you guys probably know why I'm here, but ultimately wanted to reiterate the reason, which is just to keep the fire station moving on your radar. I think we've done a pretty good job of bringing it up and making it as a known issue. The one major issue that, is very concerning to me was that this was brought up as an issue to town staff several years ago, the planning department, as well as several other planners that are over there. And they told me that they were working on it. And they told me repeatedly they were working on it, in contact with the developer, South Metro Fire, et cetera, et cetera. And I was able to, through some detective work, find out that that was not necessarily the case. And I do want to give kudos out to the underlying developer, E5X. They've been fantastic, approachable, amazing to deal with, and generally speaking, listening to the concerns of the citizens in and throughout the area. So I just want to make sure that it's being addressed. And the one question I have, and I'm just going to leave here along with a couple others, is what is the intent of the land where the fire station is currently planned? Would that become open space, or would that become something else? So that's a question that I have. I realize that it's coming up in the future, so we're not going away anytime soon. We'll be back. The other question that I have is, will there be ample parking for the park that's going to be there? I couldn't tell from the plan that was out there, but it looked like there was maybe 30 spaces, if I was looking at that correctly. I plan on using that park as a regional park, and I'm telling you that I'm going to drive over there. I'm not riding my bike. So there's going to be a lot of cars from people in surrounding areas. Also a question about the turf in the field that they were showing there. Is that artificial turf or natural? Obviously, we got water issues, and water issues are becoming more of a problem going forward. And the other question was there be a sign at Hess and Chambers? It sounded like the sign for the neighborhood was more internal. And I guess that's my last one. I did want to just leave one last one here. I was excited to actually see Josh back up there in motion for approval tonight. So I think that's it for me right now. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ian.
You're welcome.
Always has to get that one dig in. Danette, do we have anyone else for public comment?
Yes, Andrea Poole.
Andrea, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for allowing me some time. I am a current resident of the Anthology community at 12693 Buffington Trail.
Go ahead.
And I do have some comments in relation to others who have spoken tonight.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the time. I would like to start my public comment by saying I, like others in the community, have joined the residency here in Anthology in Parker, this beautiful city, and I am disappointed by the way we were misled from the builder. The builder, Century Communities, has not disclosed with any forthright intent for the development behind our property. Again, I live on Buffington Trail. We have this beautiful open space behind us. We frequently see antelope, fox, coyote, and even some cows who are grazing the open space behind us. It's just a pleasure. It's part of the reason we chose this lot and this community, was so that we could appreciate the nature that is all around us. So we do feel like we were misled from the builder, as we frequently asked them throughout our purchasing process whether or not this beautiful open space behind our home would be developed. And we were frequently and every single time told no. We, like the others on our street, did pay a lot premium. So I joined my fellow neighbors in that concern. Additionally, we have also had warranty issues. Thank goodness at this point we're not experiencing extreme flooding, as I've heard from some of our other neighbors, and I'm so sorry to hear about that. But we have a lot of warranty issues with our builder and many unresolved issues on our property. We have seen recently that our sump pump has been running more frequently now that the development is close to being done on our street. It was not running hardly at all when we moved in several times ago. The current green spaces in our community, I just want to add that, those are flooded frequently. When we go to enjoy those green spaces, they are standing water, whether or not there's been rain in the recent weeks. Another concern is that the wildlife and beauty, as I've already mentioned, is going to be changed by this community. And I appreciate having 30 acres of open space, but can we not appreciate and build around open space that already exists and that is beautiful as it is? My question, and I would appreciate some follow-up on, is related to environmental impact studies. As I mentioned, we've not been told about any of this from our builder. I would love to see the environmental impact that is going to be done for the natural and beautiful surroundings that we have. I really appreciate the council's time, and thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Andrea. Danette, who's next?
Rich S.
All right, Rich, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Rich, if you will unmute your microphone, please.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
My name is Richard Sanders. I live at 15786 East Indian Brook, Parker, Colorado, 80134.
Great, go ahead, sir.
Thank you for giving me a couple minutes. I'm going to talk about the firehouse for a couple minutes. I retired out of Buckley Air Force Base after 23 years. I live down at the corner of Chambers and Hess. And as it is now, if you leave your windows open, you can hear the traffic going up and down Hess all night long. And I have PTSD associated from my time in the desert. So that traffic keeps me awake at night, most of the night. And when I can't sleep, it wakes me up very frequently. I'm worried that a fire station is going to only exacerbate that a lot more. And if you have any other veterans that live in this area here or close to the fire station, they're going to have that same issue. The other concern I have is we all have kids around here, and having a fire station, it concerns me that fire trucks or the associated ambulances or other emergency equipment, emergency vehicles are going to end up, hitting some of our kids. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rich, and thank you for your service. Danette, who do we have next?
Nicholas Robinson.
Nicholas, if you'll state your name and address for the record when you come off mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, there you go. If you'll state your name and address for the record, and I'll give you your 3 minutes.
Hi, yes. My name is Nicholas Robinson. I live at 12711 Buffington Trail in Parker.
Great. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. I just want to kind of give everybody there just a round of applause for really just being there for our community. We just recently moved into the neighborhood in March, and we've really kind of come along a lot of the issues that everybody has already stated. But I want to really reiterate some of these other issues that we've seen as well. The water issues are a big deal, along with the underlying soil issues that we might be having. We personally have had a lot of concrete issues with our specific home, and talking with Century and the warranty people. I've actually been stated too that there is 45 plus people with concrete issues. I don't,
We froze up there, Nicholas.
Nicholas, if you'll turn off your video, we will at least be able to hear your audio.
Do we want to see if we can get him back and move on to the next?
Great. We have
Remember, he's
Nicole
midway.
Barton is next.
All right. Hang on. All right, who's Nicole? Oh,
hello, sorry. Good
all,
husband.
all right. If the Bartons, if you'll introduce yourself and give us your address for the record.
My dog here is very concerned. Our address is 15774 East Indian Brook Circle.
Great. Go ahead.
I wanted to just first initially second the fire station issue. We want to keep on top of the progress with the move of that and just affirm our interest in seeing it repositioned. I did have a question, and I hope someone can potentially get back to me on this. The design for waterways and things like that, we appreciate that, but we're also concerned about the wildlife. I know it's been voiced several times, but designing for homes and people to live, that's great, but there's also life that already currently exists on that land, and humans aren't the only species that live in this area. So if someone can take a look at that information and get back to us as what design considerations are being made for potentially water channels for the wildlife areas for them to graze. Are they just being pushed out completely? The design doesn't even consider them. If we could get some information as to how that's being addressed. And then lastly, I just had a comment. I understand that the land has been approved for the usage that's being listed. And frankly, I know there's legal issues with revoking what's been approved, but I just want to comment that there's a general sentiment in this area that people live in Parker for a reason. They don't choose to live here for the housing communities. They don't choose to live here for the extension of streets. They choose to live here for the rural feel, the wildlife that exists, the smaller town feel, and it's proximity to Denver, but it's not part of Denver. So I just want to reiterate that I understand this area has been used and approved for what's to come, but someone has to be stewards for the people that already live here. And I think that's your charge as a board to understand that the people in Parker moved here for a reason, and maybe the maximum amount of development that could occur is not what generally anyone wants. So just lastly, to make a statement that someone has to be considering the voiceless here and being stewards for what already exists. So thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much. Danette, do we have anyone else?
Yes, Jacqueline.
All right, Jacqueline Carter, if you will state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Jacqueline Carter, 15792 East Indian Brook Circle.
Great, go ahead.
And I am also here to voice my support in getting the fire station moved. I live right at the corner of Hess and Great Plain, and it literally would be in my backyard. And I understand it's being addressed, and I really appreciate that. And I think it's just would be a better move to get it moved in a place that maybe isn't as residential. Like Rich, my neighbor, had pointed out, the Hess Road right now is like a racetrack behind our house at night. I don't know what goes on out there, but I'm woken up, my bedroom faces that way, and we wake up several times at night with, a lot of nights, especially on the weekend, with cars racing or something back there. And I just think the fire station would, create a lot of noise pollution and adding to all that noise on Hess Road. So thank you, and I will be attending the meeting on the 12th.
Great, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else, Danette?
Are there any other comments? If so, please raise your hand in Zoom. No more.
None? And we didn't get the gentleman back? Okay. Anyone else in the room wishing to make a comment? Great. Seeing none, we will ask the applicant John, if you'd like to make any follow-up comments, or Chris, maybe especially around any of the drainage issues that might have been brought up, or wildlife.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try and kind of group them if I can.
Perfect.
We did hear a lot, obviously, about drainage concerns and what sounds like might be perched groundwater. We'll definitely look into that. I'm sure. Oh, Alex is not there.
He's right.
Oh, there he is. I'm sure we'll be working directly with the engineering staff to make sure that is not a concern for this community. I can't help what's happened with the adjacent community. A lot of the comments, I was trying to make sure of like where people were and whatnot. There seemed like there were quite a few that had drainage concerns from our homes to their homes in the 1C area. Again, we'll be looking at that area in more detail, making sure that we have drainage that does not, our drainage will not go onto their property. It's your own town staff will not allow that to happen. With a lot of the Century Communities commentary, I'm not sure how to address that. We're not a builder. We don't have an affiliation. We're a land planning firm. I don't have an affiliation with Century Communities. We do planning for them in other communities. We didn't do this particular one. I'm not sure how to address that exactly. I will say that with some of the commentary about the wildlife, keeping those natural drainage corridors and having a regional drainage, well, actually, it is a drainage corridor. The Oak Gulch will be a regional trail and drainage corridor, and keeping those things in a more natural condition does help with the wildlife on the site. Now, there's no way that adding housing isn't going to impact the wildlife that's currently on the site, but following that more natural planning principle will mitigate that to a degree. We have certainly done all of the required studies, environmental, natural resources, et cetera. So trying to see if there was... And there were some comments about sort of a small town feel, or you don't want to be like Highlands Ranch. That's Highlands Ranch, some people like to live there, some people don't like it. I don't believe that this is really like Highlands Ranch. I think that there's some principles at Highlands Ranch. They also preserve some of the drainage corridors. But I think we're bringing unique new housing to the community. And again, obviously, a lot of concerns about the fire station, and we're working hard and fast to get that moved, and we've got hearings scheduled. We've been through the referral process already, so I think that hit everything. Oh, I can answer your density question. Sorry, I was trying to look that up while we were going through. So there are 400. The sketch plan area for 1 Segment 1 is 558 acres, 464 homes. The overall density is 0.83 DU per acre. Hopefully that answers them.
Great. Council, any other questions before we close for debate and discussion?
For Richard, for.
Yep, for the applicant. Any other?
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you could, going back to the dendritic development, when the town approached the owners of the property and thus your client, there wasn't a dendritic plan in place. And could you explain to me what a dendritic plan does as far as the volume of lots that you can put onto a piece of property? We decreased the amount of lots going onto this property, or the owners agreed to decrease the amount of homes to introduce a dendritic plan. Is that your belief?
I'm not sure about the overall number of homes, but I know what happened was you ended up with a significant amount more open space on the property.
Thank you.
And you're exactly right. Like a lot of the planning areas, the previous plan had open space on some of the higher areas, and the lower areas were slated for homes. This essentially flip-flops it. I mean, that's a generalization. I mean, there were some drainages that were left, but in a lot of cases, the open space corridors were on the high ridge points, and there's not significant ridges, but they were on the higher points of the property, and the homes were slated for the natural lower drainage areas. What's in those natural lower drainage areas is some wonderful natural vegetation. So when we're working with Muller Engineering, who's really leading that charge, what we're able to do in this process is keep as much of that natural vegetation as possible, because, I mean, when you just look at the property, where that vegetation is naturally in the drainage, is not up on the higher portions of the property. That's primarily grassland.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Great. Anyone else have for the applicant?
Yeah.
Sure.
Have you done any environmental impact studies?
I'd have to look at all of our studies, but I know that there are environmental studies that are required by the town. We've done everything that the town has required us to do, which include natural studies. I mean, we've done vegetation studies. We kind of call them are there any endangered species, things of that nature, and there are not. So we know that there are raptors. We know that there are certain times of year you can work in areas where they are, and certain times you can't. And so we've done all the studies that are required.
So in hearing some of the water issues and basement issues, is there bentonite out there?
We've done soil studies. We can take a peek at it. You don't happen to know, do you? Yeah, but that's something that we can definitely ferret through our more detailed design process. We've done soil studies, so we know if there's areas of swell, if we're going to have to do over-X in certain areas because of that swell. But the builders will drill each lot when we get to that point.
Yeah, but we've had, subdivisions out here where full subdivisions have had foundation issues, or half of subdivisions. So that's why I'm asking if you've looked at the bentonite or expansive soils issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really, I think, a more detailed design question, and we will be looking at that with, yeah. Well, I mean, I know we have, but I mean, we're going to be looking at it in even more detail. I mean, but soil studies have been done for the property to make sure that development is possible.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Hendricks?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could give a little brief history of how long this project's been planned for. Like, I lived here for 17 years, and I pulled up articles from the Parker Chronicle about this like 6-7 years ago at least, and so I've known about this coming. It's just taken a while.
Right.
I was just wondering if you could elaborate.
I think you were a lot younger then. But no, I mean, in all honesty, I think I worked on this project first as I was a partner at a company called Redstone. It was also a land planning firm, and it was about 22 or 23 years ago when we got the original entitlements in place for this. And of course, it includes what's built now in Anthology. Those were some of the early filings. So it's been decades.
If I can add, this property was annexed and zoned in 1984, and it was zoned at the current density levels that we have now. The plan's been modified over the years. The last big amendment was in 2015, but overall, the general densities have not changed.
Thanks, Jim, for that. Councilmember Dagg?
Yeah, no, I just have a few questions for staff, so not
Okay.
this time.
Councilmember Barrington.
No questions, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you, and thank you for your time tonight. We're going to close the public hearing at 8:43. And Jim, are you?
I thought there was going to be some additional questions for staff.
Do we have?
Yes.
Oh. Let's start to my left. Councilmember Barrington, any questions for staff for Brianna? Councilmember Dyack?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to tease out themes on the public comment, and it seems like at least the big one to me is warranty challenges with the existing home builder, and in terms of drainage and other things. And to me, I think it's more of a question on what can we do about that? What do they have to do? Are there any funds that we have in escrow to ensure that they follow through on these issues? I'm just sort of looking for guidance. I don't know who to, Alex or Tom or Jim. Look out! Here we go.
Good evening, Council. Alex Mestal with the Engineering Department. So I think what Councilmember Dyack is asking is, do we have public improvement security or other securities left from Century Communities that we could hold while they address some of these issues that homeowners are having? I would have to check on that. So, some of those filings have final acceptance, some do not. So there are some that we still have some security, and others we've given that back at the final warranty period.
Yeah, and then just with that, obviously we kind of look at individual developments discreetly, but we also take a look back and make sure that they work together. So, I just want to make sure that this application or the applicant has gone through the process to ensure that we don't knowingly and willfully create more of an issue on the items that were identified. Can you kind of enlighten us on sort of how we go about that process?
Sure, and you're speaking of drainage specifically,
Let's go
correct?
with drainage, yes.
Sure. So really, I heard two different concerns. One was of the surface drainage variety. That's what we would call stormwater. That's what our stormwater staff deals with. Several folks talked about the hillside behind their house. Those are things we can look into as stormwater staff. We can make sure that this new development doesn't send any more water down that hill or cuts off that flow as they develop those areas. Certainly, we can work with the applicant to make sure that occurs when they develop in those areas. The groundwater is a more challenging issue. As stormwater staff, we don't typically deal with groundwater. We're not groundwater experts, but certainly that's something we can look at with the water district and the developer and their geotechnical work to kind of see what's going on out there. We have spoken to some of the residents, my stormwater staff has, several of the residents that spoke tonight about their drainage issues on their streets. We've looked at chase drains and some other issues with some of the nuisance flows with the sumps that flow out of the homes. We'll continue to look for solutions with those homeowners, but I think the overarching issue is probably groundwater. So that's something we can certainly continue to work on with the residents, with the builder if we can, and with Parker Water, and again, the new developer next door to see what can be done in that regards.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like if you can just sort of research, or someone can research what, not to say power, but what leverage we have to make sure that the home builder takes care of their existing issues, I think that would be good. I know as the months and years kind of go by, it becomes challenging. To me, we had a few drainage issues in my development 2-3 years down the road, and they came back and rectified it because we had basements flooding. So, we're just looking to see if they can get taken care of, and this is really not a part of this application or this developer, but it sounds like that there's something apart that is getting tied to this, and I just want to make sure that we at least try to move the ball towards the end zone, so to speak, for the residents.
Sure, and we can certainly reach out to Century Communities and make them aware of the issues we heard tonight. I'm sure they probably already are, as we've heard, but we can certainly bring them to the table for a discussion about what needs to be done.
Yeah, thank you. The only other couple of things here is that I heard about lot premiums and open space, and this is kind of a continual thing. I think Mr. Coleman summed it up correctly. It most likely is a civil matter. What you do is if you buy a house adjacent to undeveloped property or vacant land, you have to go through a process, who owns it, and the only ones that I was aware of is that you have conservation easements, which identify that this truly will be open space or just an open space zoning that the town has. But that potentially can change as well. So I don't know if I have any good news there, but that's sort of a common theme that I've heard here in the 9 years that I've been sitting here. And it's very challenging because when you come in, it looks like the wide open spaces, but unfortunately somebody owns that piece of land on the other side of your fence. You just got to figure out who owns it, and you got to make a judgment call as to how long is it going to be for that, and how much do you really want to pay in a lot premium, and that's the unfortunate truth about it. So that, and to me, small town feel and building homes and where are they all going to come from. I've been here since '83, and I think I continually ask that question. When I was here, I always looked to our former town clerk, Carol Baumgartner, but she's no longer here. She retired. As to how long this continues, but every single development has sort of, I think, asked that question: is that do we really need the homes, or will the homes affect small town feel? And I think everybody's different. To me, living here for 38 years, most of my life, I don't know any different. So to me, Parker is what Parker is. It still has that small town feel. It still has that 2,000 resident feel to me. Other people differ, but I still see the themes of the pleasant people, of the caring people, and having the farmers market and other activities here in our community, and it brings us together. And with that, I just I feel like I'm in the same community I was back in 1983. So that's all, Mayor.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the firehouse, I know it's not really part of this tonight, but I appreciate everyone bringing it up. I agree the location is not ideal, but we'll talk about that next month in the future. Just a comment, I appreciate the community parks and not just throwing a playground and calling it a day, actually having some actual uses that the community and the town can enjoy. I am concerned about the drainage. We'll have a note out to Parker Water, I think you mentioned, to follow up. But I echo Councilman Dyack's concerns. I'm new at this up here, but definitely would like to get more information on that.
So this is the time to ask questions. Deliberation will come later.
The staff.
Okay.
It sounds like you're deliberating.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. All right. That's good.
See, I'm new.
You can play your rookie card.
Okay, I'm rookie. I'm done.
Councilmember Pogue, any questions,
for
staff?
Alex, I've got a couple questions. One is, I've asked for an environmental impact study and wildlife corridor studies for 2 years now. Where are we on that?
I would defer that to planning.
So all of the required environmental reports and all of that have been uploaded to track it. They're very large, so we couldn't include them in your packet, but they're all available to the public through the e-Track-It.
That's not answering what I asked. What is the, we were supposed to adopt a policy on it. Where are we at with that?
Can the town administrator's office get us a link to that so Cheryl can review that?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, perfect. John, did you want to say anything? Okay, all right.
Okay, and the other thing is, the developer said that they're going to be looking at the geology so that we don't have these drainage problems there. Part of that is slope and whatever else. Are you looking at all of that?
I'm not sure I 100% understand your question. Could you clarify?
Well, they have a lot of drainage issues here, and this property is adjacent to where these other people already live. So what are you doing to look at water runoff issues, the geology of the soils underneath? What do we need to do?
Yeah, so certainly all the surface drainage, like I mentioned, that's what stormwater staff reviews and looks at. We'll certainly make sure that's all designed in accordance with our town criteria and with the flood district criteria. A lot of that does include the soil type. That's a factor in our pond design and our stream design, how much it will infiltrate, how much it will carry the water. So that's certainly a part of our stormwater criteria, and that will be incorporated into the design.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera?
No, thank you, Alex. I think John asked my questions and actually Pogue clarified it in that last part there. So I saw you guys all jump up and powwow when the water issue was brought up. I do want to say I thank all the testimony tonight. You guys are a tight neighborhood, and I appreciate you guys bringing that to our attention. I know the town staff will do everything they can to advocate for what was promised. I want to say thank you again to everybody. If I could, Brianna, there was one question from my good friend, Mr. Ian Elfner, and asked about the land that was, or where the firehouse is going now. What is that land currently zoned or planned for?
So where the fire station currently is will be swapped with proposed open space. So it'll be a 1-for-1 between the firehouse and open space. So
thank you. I know it's not pertaining tonight, but I did want to ask that question for Mr. Elfner. Thank you, sir.
Great. With that, we're going to close the public hearing at 8:54. Bring it back to the council. Any further questions or comments? Josh, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I just want to state to the council, I believe that our staff does an incredible job, and I know that this is a long-time partnership, and I know that the breakup, that was, created by the recession with the Anthology project, and this was an ongoing project, and the existing houses in Anthology were phase one of this, and these are neighboring communities to the original plan, and I know that staff fought very, very hard to maintain the quality of life in this neighborhood. I know our engineering staff is incredibly great, just a great group. Our planning staff also just incredible, and I appreciate the cooperation that this took. Like we've heard, I think Mr. Walter will say, 17 years this has been going on, and it's definitely been going on the 9 years that I've been sitting up here, and obviously the prior years that I've been in this community. So this is an ongoing project. We've only made it better, in my opinion. I understand the gentleman that was upset with the dendritic development. I truly believe that has created a better project. It has created a better neighbor, and it has created a more Parker project than what could have gone in there. So I appreciate the testimony tonight. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Pogue?
Yeah, additional question for staff.
Cheryl, we're just debating right now on that. Did you have a specific clarification or?
Yes.
Okay.
Community buffers. What do we currently do? How much is that impacting this project?
You closed the public hearing
Yep.
at this point.
Okay,
So
well,
we're just a debate. Okay. Councilmember Hendricks?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I appreciate all the discussion about the firehouse, and it's an issue I'm personally curious about and hope will be rectified. I had known this project was coming for a long time. I understand everyone's concerns about growth, but this is a project that's been planned for a long, long time. And but as issues come up, like the firehouse, I know this council will definitely take to heart and address things. I don't know much about the drainage issue, but I would like to follow up on that too, and I know we will. But please reach out to us if you have any concerns, and we're here for you.
Councilmember Dyak?
I think I already addressed my deliberation and summation in my question period. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Barrington?
I'd just like to comment that, being in real estate, I've known that was going to be developed, and I'm just feel badly that message didn't get delivered sometimes. But I think if 2008 wouldn't have happened, we would have seen that developed a lot sooner. And so, but thank you for being so open and for listening to residents about the firehouse and being willing to work with everyone. I appreciate you, your transparency. Thank you.
Great. If there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion on this.
Just to, we have two motions, correct? So item one, I move to approve Anthology North sketch plan for segment 1A, 1B, and 1C.
Second.
This has been moved by Councilmember Rivera, seconded by Councilmember Hendricks. Please vote when prompted. And that passes on a 4-1 vote with Cheryl Pogue voting no. Second item is the preliminary plan. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the Anthology North preliminary plan for segment 1A, subject to the condition that the preliminary plans for segment 1B and 1C must be approved by Town Council prior to the recordation of the first final plat of segment 1A, as outlined in the partial waiver resolution amendment contained in Resolution 21-022.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Rivera, seconded by Councilmember Barrington. Please vote when prompted to do so. And that motion passes on a 4-1 with Cheryl Pogue voting no. Moving on to item number 9, ordinances. We have, I believe, 1, 2, an ordinance on here with 3 parts. So North Parker Road operational improvements. Mr. Mustang, you're a busy guy tonight. You're just everywhere.
It appears so, yes.
So, Jim, just for clarification on this, we'll take ordinance number 9.336, 9.338, and then 9.339, correct? So 3 motions we're looking
Correct.
for, but we're discussing as one.
Yeah, under the charter, you have to adopt all ordinances separately, and then a separate vote, obviously.
Okay, excellent.
So to clarify, there's 2 ordinances under this item, correct?
Right.
Correct, and we'll get to that motion on the 3rd.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Before you for consideration tonight, we have 2 intergovernmental agreements in association with the North Parker Road Operational Improvement Project. Many of you will remember we discussed this project and these IGAs and also the final design contract that was approved tonight back at the June 28th study session. We gave you kind of an in-depth description of the project at that time. I won't go to that level of detail today, but I do have a brief description to refresh everyone's memory and also for the council members who might not have been at that meeting. The North Parker Road Operational Improvement is an upcoming capital roadway project. We're currently talking about Phase 1 of the project, which stretches from Parkland Way, or just south of Lincoln, up almost to E470 along Parker Road, so basically right in front of the hospital there. The primary goal of the project is to increase the number of travel lanes on Parker Road to increase vehicular mobility during peak hours. We're proposing to do that in 2 ways. One is through roadway widening when more asphalt's needed to get more lanes out there. The other is by repurposing existing turn lanes out there. Several intersections have dedicated right turn lanes only. The idea with this project is to do some median modifications and move some signals to allow those dedicated right turn lanes to be shared through right turns to get another through lane through some of those intersections during rush hour. And the project also supports pedestrian connectivity by constructing new sidewalk to connect some gaps within the corridor. The project currently is at 30% design. We've completed 30% design, I should say, back here in February and March. We're getting ready to begin final design in the 3rd quarter of this year. Again, the final design contract was approved by Town Council on the consent agenda tonight. We anticipate final design and all the necessary CDOT clearances being complete next spring, with construction beginning after that and being completed in 2023. So the proposed IGAs, or intergovernmental agreements, have to do with project funding for this project. This slide shows a breakdown of the anticipated funding. So the anticipated construction cost of these improvements would be about $4 million. The project has been selected for about $3 million of outside funding through these IGAs. The biggest chunk of this is coming from DRCOG. We were selected through the Douglas County subregion of DRCOG for about $2.5 million in outside funding. The biggest chunk of that is from the feds. That's $1.4 million in federal CMAQ funding, or that stands for congestion mitigation and air quality. These funds go towards projects that can reduce roadway congestion to improve air quality in the region. And then the remaining 1.1 are state funds from CDOT. $500,000 are from their FASTER program, which is roadway safety. $600,000 are from their multimodal fund, which will go towards the sidewalks we're looking to construct. On top of that $2.5 million, Douglas County has pledged $500,000 towards the project as well. That, taking into account that $3 million, the remaining obligation for the town would be about $1 million of construction funds. So as I mentioned, IGAs are required to codify this outside funding, both with Douglas County and with CDOT. A few points here on the Douglas County IGA. It's similar to the other funding agreements we've entered into with the county over the years. Essentially, the county agrees that they'll provide their funding to us within 30 days of our selection of a contractor. We have to begin construction prior to May 31st of 2023, so we have plenty of time to do that. We can request an extension to that date if we need to. And then the last one is if we were to terminate the contract for any reason, the county does want to be refunded their prorated share of that money. So if we were to not do the construction, they would want their money back, essentially. The CDOT IGA is a little more involved. It involves federal funds, so a lot of those requirements that come with federal funds are in this agreement. It's a little bit different on the funding mechanism. We have to submit reimbursements to them through the construction process up to that $2.5 million limit. Certainly, we have to make sure that the contractor adheres to all the federal provisions, a DBE or disadvantaged business enterprise, EEO, all those kind of programs that are required with federal money are going to be required of the town and contractor on this. We also have to follow CDOT's, their processes and clearances, and do some of their reporting requirements they're going to hold to us. We'll have to do monthly progress reports, things like that. We have to hold record retention for 3 years on this project. We have to follow the CDOT processes, essentially, on this. And then their deadline is that the project must be advertised by September of 2022. That's probably going to be the more relevant deadline for us. We've got about a 4 to 5 month buffer between what our schedule shows and the September deadline, so we should be good. But we wanted to make sure we had enough time to get through all the, like I said, all the CDOT clearances that will inevitably take probably the bulk of the time between now and then. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We do recommend approval of both IGAs. We're excited to move this project forward, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Council, I will open it for questions to my left. Councilmember Dyak?
I have no questions, but can I comment / deliberate?
Nope.
No, okay.
All right, Councilmember Barrington, any questions on that?
I think this was in there, but if all goes as planned, when would this project be completed?
Probably in spring of 2023.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Pogue?
No question.
Councilmember Rivera?
So just for clarity, and if I look at this as a homeowner, essentially in this project, even though this is a state highway, Parker is the GC, or the general contractor. Right. So there are requirements that we need to do, but ultimately Parker is going to decide what's good for our local part of Parker Road, correct?
We get to have a large role in guiding the design. Perfect. We have to meet all of CDOT's criteria, but we do get to steer the project. Yes.
Of course. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
All right, with that, we will open it up for public comment at 9:06. Anyone in the room? Seeing none. Danette, do we have anyone online wishing to make a public comment?
No public comments.
Okay, then we'll bring it back to close the public comment period at 9:06 and bring it back to the council for any questions or debate or opining. Councilmember Dyak, whichever you wish.
Yeah, it's just to Councilmember Rivero's point. This is a state highway, and why is the town of Parker providing funds to improve a state highway when it's not our responsibility? And I think the answer is that the town of Parker, as well as Public Works Engineering, constantly evaluates where the issues and needs are. And what we try to do is we try to define problem areas or potential future problem areas and try to resolve that for the best interests of our citizens. And unfortunately, in this era of constrained funding, CDOT doesn't really take a look at these operational problems as a high priority. That there is a lot of other projects out there that are requiring more attention based upon CDOT's process. So for us, working at the Dr. Cog level, we know there's a carve out of federal gas tax dollars. As I identified in my council notes, the dual model approach allows 80% of our carve-out money to go to the subregions, which are counties. That dropped about $23 million on Douglas County's lap. And what we do as Douglas County elected officials and staff people is we get together and try to define where our local area problem issues are. And we basically have a discussion. And through that, we were able to get the county to come in and give us some money. So thank you, county and county commissioners. We also got money from the Dr. Cog level. It's CMAQ funding, not CMAQ. Just want to let you know for future. You'll sound like the in Dr. Cog person at that point in time. But yeah, that's what happens. So to me, it's a long and winding process. And you know, if we can get more money coming to Parker to fix our roads for the benefit of citizens, I think it's a win. The only downside is we have to spend our local dollars to leverage the other $3 million so we can improve Parker Road for our citizens. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
Yeah, we get so many traffic and congestion complaints, and since the goal of this is to increase the travel lanes on Parker Road, improve mobility, looks like it's going to really help to relieve some of that heavy congestion, especially during rush hour. And it also, I'm learning that CDOT deals with the fire that's burning the brightest, and this might not be that right now, but since it sounds like we can really leverage funds from other entities, so I'm all for moving forward with this.
Excellent. Councilmember Hendricks?
I just appreciate being proactive on this, and anything that can improve infrastructure, improve traffic is a win for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Pogue?
Yeah. The traffic travel time during rush hour from Cottonwood to Lincoln keeps getting longer. Will this help that?
Yes, it should. You know, if we provided an additional through lane all the way between, it won't go up to Cottonwood, but from just south of E470 all the way to just south of Lincoln, that should provide, you know, some more capacity for the roadway and should reduce travel time. We have other phases of this project that we'll be bringing before you, you know, in the coming months and years that hopefully will improve that even further.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you. Good.
Yep. All right, with that, I will, there's no other questions. I'll entertain a motion on the first ordinance, A1.
I move to approve ordinance number 9.
Public comment? Yep. We did? Yep, sorry.
It was fast, though.
Yeah, you were quick. Sorry.
I move to approve ordinance number 9.336 on second reading.
I'll second.
I'm going to give it to Ann. Motion is made by Councilmember Hendricks, seconded by Councilmember Barrington. Please vote on 9.336. And that motion passes unanimously. Next is ordinance number 9.337.
I move to approve ordinance number 9.337 on second reading.
I'll second.
The motion was made by Councilmember Hendricks, seconded by Councilmember Barrington. Please vote on 9.337. And that motion passes unanimously.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I got confused. Cheryl asked a question of staff, so I thought we still had to do public, so my bad.
We're good. Next up is ordinance number 9.338 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance approving the agreement regarding design and construction of the drainage and flood control improvements for the Upper Jordan Road tributary. Mr. Grabcheck, welcome back.
Hi.
Nice you gave Alex a break tonight.
Yeah,
so.
right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members.
This ordinance is to approve an IGA between the town and the Mile High Flood District to fund a drainageway improvement project along Upper Jordan Road tributary. The project reach is located west and parallel to Jordan Road, extending from the regional detention pond upstream and south of Main Street, located on the bottom part of that graphic, all the way to the town boundary located on the northern part of that graphic. The tributary corridor is confined by single-family and multifamily residences within the Auburn Hills and Bradbury Ranch communities, as well as road crossings of Main Street and Bradbury Ranch Drive. This project seeks to achieve the following goals. To optimize the upstream regional pond to detain a wider range of storm events, to reduce peak flows downstream and provide a more maintainable water quality element, as well as to reanalyze the channel utilizing the optimized regional pond and mitigate any identified areas prone to localized flooding. To improve the channel capacity in order to eliminate any encroachment of the floodplain onto residential lots, due to aggradation or sediment buildup within the system. To install maintenance structures at pond outfalls to reduce sediment loading into the system and provide an easier long-term removal of sediment. And also, finally, to selectively remove cattails only where necessary for floodplain conveyance while keeping an overall natural aesthetic to the drainage way. So a more surgical approach. A conceptual design of this reach was completed in the spring of 2021 with final design and permitting to continue into 2022. Construction is anticipated to start by mid to late 2022. The project funding breakdown is as follows, with the town and Mile High Flood District each contributing $300,000 towards the design and partial construction. A special fund transfer comprised of the remaining balance from an older 2006 town and Mile High Flood District joint project will also be contributed towards this project. Additional funding, including escrow funds from the HOA, will be contributed in 2022 to complete the funding for construction. As such, staff recommends approval of this ordinance.
Council questions. Start to my right, Councilmember Rivero.
Thank you. Again, outdated detention structures and downstream limits. It's a perfect example of older infrastructure technology just being outdated in the needs and just deterioration. There's improved flows in the channels or increased flows in the channels, and then at that point, if we don't have the things to slow it down, we have increased velocity, they do greater damage, and we need to improve that. So I appreciate it. I don't have any questions. I thought that this is a long time coming. I've walked through there for many years and ridden my bike through there, and it definitely is at need. I will say, talk to you about the cattails, because we do want to keep the cattails for water quality and maintain some sort of beautiful nature that is back there. It is an existing long time area, and it definitely is a beautiful corridor. And we do want some cattails, but why are some being removed, and what is the need there?
So essentially, the cattails slow down the water and cause the sediment to fall out more rapidly. So we need to keep a path for the water to keep flowing and the sediment to keep flowing. Because as that sediment has built up, it's a very shallow system, so the conveyance capacity to the channel has just been reduced. And so nowadays, we kind of over-design these channels. There's more room for these cattails to build up. In addition, this project is going to have to go through permitting because these are wetlands. Wetlands are very, very expensive and difficult to mitigate for, so there's a lot of reasons why we want to minimize our impact to the existing cattails, but still achieve our project goals to make sure the houses don't flood.
Yep.
But yes,
thank you.
Councilmember Pogue, any questions on this?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, why do we need it? Obviously, your picture shows that. But tell me a little bit more of what you're going to accomplish, not just that you're fixing the drainage channel, but how are we going to do that?
So part of this is going to be to reduce the amount of flows coming downstream of the pond by updating that structure, just to help better control the storm events for the smaller storm events. Part of it, the increased conveyance is basically going to be opening up the channel in areas where there's room to do so, and also in areas where there are lots that are sitting lower and closer to the channel. This subdivision have lots that kind of range in elevations from sitting kind of more perched up. There are lots of lots that back up to the channel that are perched up and are really no danger, but there are a select number of lots that are that are very close in elevation to the channel itself. This channel was analyzed as part of a floodplain study in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, and at that time they didn't do a full detailed study, and a lot has changed from what they had studied. And so we want to do a full detailed study to make sure that these lots that are so close aren't being encroached or don't actually have floodplain and require floodplain insurance, as well as finding opportunities, if that does exist, to mitigate or eliminate it. So that way it doesn't encroach onto their lots, generally by opening up the actual channel, making it wider where we can.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No question.
Councilmember Dyak? Councilmember Barrington?
What street was that where the car was like underwater?
That was on Martingale, right there on the northwestern portion of the reach. And, this reach was identified as, a possibility of having some flooding issues, and so we wanted to look into it. And then as we were going through the process for that, it happened that we were hit with kind of a bad storm in that area, and really kind of provided a good snapshot as to why we need to be taking a closer look at this area.
Tells a good story.
Definitely. All right, we're going to open this up for public comment at 9:19. Anyone in the room? No. Danette, do we have anyone online wish to make a public comment?
No comments.
Okay, so we're going to close it at 9:19 and bring it back to the council for any further comments. We'll start back.
I have.
You already
none.
made your comment,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
now you can ask a question.
I asked my questions.
Anything else?
No, I'm good. Sorry.
All right. Councilmember Pogue, any further comments?
Everything
Councilmember
else.
Hendricks? All right, Barrington? All right, then I'll entertain a motion on 9.338.
I move to approve ordinance number 9.338 on second reading, please.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Rivera, seconded by Councilmember Hendricks. Please vote on 9.338.
Something in the air tonight.
And that motion passes unanimously. There is an item C, ordinance number 9.339 on second reading. There's been a request to move that out to a date certain of 9/20/21.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Councilmember Rivera, seconded by Councilmember Pogue to move 9.339 out to 9/20/21. Please vote.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you got one more vote. Go on, so.
By accident. You can just, yes, I'm fine. I just shut down an issue and it took the whole
That
thing
motion
out.
passes unanimously. With no other business before the Parker Town Council, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Now it pops.
Y'all want to just stay?
I'll second.
Thanks. Motion is made by Councilmember Hendricks, seconded by Councilmember Barrington. Please vote on the adjournment. And we're adjourned at 9:20.